So I have here with me Heino from GIZ and more specifically the PtX Hub. So Heino, nice to have you here. And to start the interview, would you perhaps please introduce yourself and explain a bit what you do, your background, and what you do at PtX Hub?
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm Heino Von Meyer. I have worked for 30 years for the OECD, the last 15 years heading the Berlin office. And then I touched a pension, but I didn't want to retire. And at the same time, Germany had announced a Power to X action plan. And at the COP25 in Madrid in 2019, the Power to X Hub, or PtX Hub, was set up. And it is supported and put into practice by the federal government and the ICI program, the International Climate Initiative. But it's implemented by GIZ because our focus is on helping developing and emerging economies in defossilizing their economies and basically the global economy entirely. So we are a center of expertise and collaboration promoting Power to X solutions and value chains in those sectors where we need green molecules, so sectors that cannot be electrified for decarbonisation, and those are typically sectors in industry such as steel or chemical industry, and in the transport sector, for example, aviation and shipping. We don't see it in cars because their direct electrification is far more efficient, but you won't get airplanes across the Atlantic or container ships across the Pacific without molecules. And so the hub is helping countries to set up Power to X value chains, and that clearly is more than just harvesting the sun and the wind, which they often have, but it's a whole complex entertaining, and that's what we try to do.
That's an interesting topic and I think a pretty important one as well. But now, how exactly do you manage this? Do countries can apply? Is there associations that need to apply, for example, to get your help in setting up these structures?
Well, together with the German federal government, we have selected a number of countries. So, in fact, we are working currently with 14 countries, primarily in Africa and Latin America. So, Morocco, Egypt, and then Kenya, South Africa, Namibia, and then crossing the Atlantic, Uruguay, Argentina, Chile. Chile, the GIZ has been engaged very early in actually helping them set up a hydrogen and Power to X economy. Colombia. So those are the countries where we have colleagues out there. And our point is we are not coming top down with the global solution. We are trying to identify what we call the country narrative. What is really fitting the context and the conditions in the various countries. And it's very interesting to see that even neighboring countries like Namibia and South Africa, yes, they both have wind and sun, but then there are so different contexts. South Africa having a long tradition already in producing, for example, what we call Fischer-Tropsch fuels, so converting electricity into products like e-kerosene, but currently still based on coal, whereas, so it's the biggest Fischer-Tropsch unit standing in South Africa. And so in South Africa, it's a matter of just transition from a fossil economy to a renewable one. And that obviously is a huge task. Namibia, on the other hand, has hardly any big industry, so they can start from scratch and perhaps leapfrog the fossil stage. So maybe that's the advantage, but you can't come with the same recipes. You shouldn't come with recipes. You should really work with the people on the ground and develop together where is your comparative advantage and what are your strengths. Just, I mean, I could go on.
I know.
Because one important issue is, for example, do you have a workforce that is trained to handle power to X plants, etc.? And probably you don't have them. So training, skill development, etc., is one important element, which at big conferences it's often not talked about. The technical problems of electrolysis are in the forefront of financing, but to really get it successful, you need to look at the environmental, the social, and also the economic development potentials.
Yeah, I mean, training the people, I think it's quite an important topic. I mean, we train a lot of people on the safe handling of hydrogen. I think this is often a bit of forgotten, that you need so many people to operate the plants at the end that know what it means to have a gas under pressure, to have a high diffusion rate. But this is a quite technical topic. You mentioned also like the environmental points, and I think we discussed it also in the forefront of this interview, that sustainable production of fuels or hydrogen is more than just having a green production side. Yes. So can you perhaps explain a bit more about this topic? Because in my opinion, it's quite an important one, that you create also local welfare and have a sustainable production locally and not only a green production.
Yes. I mean, we have that categorization of hydrogen: gray based on fossil, blue based on fossil but with carbon capture and storage, and then we have the green hydrogen. But it is defined because of it is renewable from renewable sources, and the maximum we do is to calculate the greenhouse gas. So greenhouse gas accounting, that's where it usually ends. But that's only a minor part of the even environmental dimensions that need to be addressed. Yeah. Typically, the first issue that comes up for electrolysis, you need water. And unfortunately, where you have a lot of sun and wind, like Morocco or Namibia, you don't have easy access to water. So almost always you need to embark on desalination. Now, fortunately, this is not such a big cost issue. So the costs of desalinating the water is less than 3% of the overall costs. That's good news. Yeah. Because if that's the case, then please don't think only about water for your electrolyzer, but maybe also how this water production can also help improve access to water for your local population. Unfortunately, desalination creates other problems because you have a kind of brine at output, and if you put that straight back into the ocean, you will affect aquatic ecosystems, etc. So we need to carefully analyze these things, and that's just the water part. Then you have land issues, land use change, land rights. in Namibia, for example, it is in a the big projects currently planned are in designated protected areas. Now, if you want to export the hydrogen later on to Europe, you will have a big problem because it will not be accepted coming from a protected area. We'll have to look into this. It is not a protected area primarily because of biodiversity reasons, but because there were diamonds on the beach and they wanted to protect that there is not a rush for collecting diamonds. Okay, it's from a long time ago. It's even still called the Schutzgebiet. So, but you have to look at water and land use. By the way, if we embark on electrolyzers, there is a serious issue about the critical raw materials that go into it and where they come from. Big story. And then obviously pollution, etc. That's just the environmental part. But in addition, you need to address the social part, the so-called governance part. So what about participation of the local community and the stakeholders? What is transparency? Because we come in with millions or even billions of investment into countries, and we know that that is a temptation if we don't get things right. And ESG is now, all the banks are asking that you do ESG assessments. We have developed for PtX conceptual framework where we have added on purpose a second E, which stands for economic, because we really want economically sustainable development in our partner countries. So we talk about the EESG concept. So for us, priority is what are the needs, what are the opportunities for the partner countries? And that's, sorry to say this, different from a lot of debate in Germany and in Europe, where the logic is, oh, now we have a gas problem. How do we get as quick as possible replacement for the Russian gas? And let's not care too much about the side effects. So if for the partner countries exporting hydrogen is an option, fine. We're not against this. But we should have a strategy, a roadmap for the development of hydrogen where it's clear where the revenues from those exports are coming back. This should be transparent. And where is it invested into the development of their own energy transition, etc. So, sorry for being long, but it shows it is not just about greenhouse gas accounting. It really is a development challenge, and that's where I think GIZ has experience, and we as PtX Hub, we experience that there is a lot of demand in partner countries, and the way we help and assist and work together is different by country.
Yeah. So thank you a lot for this explanation. And I think also hydrogen is a nice opportunity for a lot of countries to create also, or to insource a lot of the value chain and to create more local welfare and not just exploiting the natural resources that countries and the people have.
However, you're touching a critical issue, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to talk about Namibia all the time, but let's take Mauritania as another example where we currently don't work. But it doesn't really, in the long term, make a lot of sense to have one ship with iron ore going up to Hamburg, and then the next ship with hydrogen in order to transform the iron ore into iron sponge, etc., and produce steel. Why not do the first step, the direct reduction part, where the energy is and then ship the first processed part of this iron to Europe for further processing. Yeah? That means the countries can get part of the value chain to develop their own economy, and the German steel industry will not be killed by that because they produce specialized steels, high quality. So,
but the direct reduction process is a technical one, and that's the issue. I mean, I fully agree with you, but you still need some company to invest that brings the technology and the knowledge on the reduction process.
Exactly, and that's where German, if we only talk about Germany now, for German industry, it is interesting because we are technology providers for a lot of these processes, from electrolyzers, from the knowledge about renewable electricity to the first processing steps, be it in steel, but be it in ammonia, be it in e-methanol or else. So,
and I think it's already happening. Like ThyssenKrupp is also part of a project of direct of producing green iron in Namibia.
Yeah.
Like with mining iron ore directly, having a local green hydrogen production, and just having a direct reduction on site and shipping then green iron.
So you're well informed, and but I wanted to get that across. We should not